You're listening to the Nansanity Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Andrade, aka Nansanity. I'm an online health, wellness, and business coach, social media strategist, group fitness instructor, and Beachbody Live master trainer. I created this podcast to help entrepreneurs like yourself learn the do's and don'ts of building a business online. On this episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes that new entrepreneurs make. So get ready to take some notes and let's get started. Thank you for joining me for episode 2 of the Nansanity Chronicles. I wanted this episode to be about the top 5 mistakes that new entrepreneurs make because, believe it or not, I've made them myself. And that's not to say that I don't make mistakes anymore, but there's a lot of things that new entrepreneurs tend to do without even realizing that it's something that they should correct early on in their business so it doesn't have a long-term effect. When I got started as an online entrepreneur, I literally had no idea what I was doing. I just jumped right in. So some of these mistakes I made really early on and was able to correct them really early on. Some of them I didn't correct until a couple of years into my journey. So that's why I wanted to do this episode for you so that you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully course correct. Mistake number 1, trying to learn everything before you actually start. Now, I already mentioned that I just jumped right in when I started my online business, so I never took the time to learn what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. The opposite end of that extreme is entrepreneurs who don't get started because they're waiting till they learn everything that they can. The problem with that is, especially in the online world, business changes almost daily. So theoretically, you're always going to be learning, and you never will be able to get started once you've learned everything, because the learning process will continue throughout your career. So that's why what you should really do is find some middle ground. Don't go to the extreme that I did, which was not learning anything and just jumping right in, but don't go to the opposite end of that, which would be just trying to learn everything and never getting started. Figure out the basics. What kind of business do you want to go into? That should be your first step. Then from there, you can build on techniques, tactics, and approaches that you're going to need to build that business online. What you want to do is just figure out what you're going to need to get started. And then actually get started. That's the biggest issue, is that you might start feeling like you're not ready because you don't know enough. I promise you, you're always going to feel like you don't know enough. Because like I said, there's always more to learn. Once you've figured out what you need to get started and you've gotten started, you can learn more from there. You're going to learn as you go. Not necessarily everything will be trial and error, but there will be things that you'll put into practice that you've learned from somewhere else that may not necessarily work for your particular business, for your brand, or even your personality style. But the only way that you're going to learn that is by putting it into practice. Mistake number 2, imitating others. I want to emphasize that there's a big difference between imitation and inspiration. You might see something online, whether it's a picture, just some text, a sale, or a promotion of some kind, and that might spark an idea for you to use in your business. Now, it's what you do with that idea that makes the difference between inspiration and imitation. I see it regularly all over social media, and you may have seen it too. People who are involved with the same organization copying and pasting certain posts. That's flat out imitation. There's no inspiration there whatsoever. Even if you take a couple of the words and tweak them just to kind of fit your voice, if you're taking the bulk of what that post is conveying and copying it right into yours, that's flat out imitation, my friend. And your audience will know it. Because if there's one thing that comes through on social media, it's authenticity or a lack of. Now, if you've seen a post that's sparked an idea that you can use in your business, and you take the context of the post and completely make it your own, you use completely different images that tie into your brand, you use wording that is yours and yours alone, but you've taken the basic idea and turned it into something that you can use, that would be inspiration. Besides the fact that you want to maintain the integrity of your brand and remain as authentic as possible, it really is just bad form and bad etiquette to steal someone else's content and use it as your own. Mistake number 3, not building relationships first. No matter what kind of business you're trying to build, at the end of the day, it's going to involve people. Whether you're selling a product, a service, a course, or all of the above, you're selling them to people. And the last thing that you want to do is make people feel like they are nothing but dollar signs to you. And the only way to do that is to build a relationship first. I'm sure this has happened to you. It's happened to me dozens of times. You get a random message from someone who either you don't really know or you haven't spoken to in a long time. They may start the message off with something like, "Hey, how have you been? It's been so long." Maybe they mention a recent post of yours, and before you even get a chance to respond, they hit you with it. The sales pitch. It used to really get me angry when I would get messages like that, but now I kind of chuckle, because my mind is still blown by the notion that people actually do this, but the first thought I have is, does this really work? Do people really make a purchase after getting hit up like that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, it's important to differentiate that kind of a message from a message that is in response to a question you had. For example, maybe, ladies, you've posted something on social media where you're saying, "I need some new mascara. Can somebody point me in the right direction of the best mascara?" And then you get a message from someone who sells mascara. That's kind of different than the random unsolicited message from someone who just started a new business and is looking to make some sales to everyone on their friends list. But it's not just people who've just started their business. I get messages from people who've been involved in their business for months, even years. That actually blows my mind a little bit more because I think, how are you still sticking with this? How is this still a technique that you're using? How have you not learned that this is probably not the best approach? And here's what it comes down to. Sure, you want to make a sale because at the end of the day, you're in business to earn money, correct? But building that relationship will ensure that you get a repeat customer. You want what Chalene Johnson calls a lifer. And you don't get that from sending out unsolicited messages and not building a relationship first. You have to give people a reason to want to do business with you. If they're just going to purchase a product, they can do that anywhere. They can just go online, do a quick search, and make their purchase. But that's not what you want, right? You want someone who's going to come back. You want repeat customers. You want lifers. You want someone who's going to refer you because a lot of your business is going to come from referrals, which means that you have to give them a reason to refer you. So start by creating a dialogue that has nothing to do with what you're trying to sell. Find out more about them. Ask them questions about themselves. Ask them about what they need. Make them feel like you care. No one wants to be sold to. No one. Don't believe me? Think about this. Have you ever gone to a car dealership to purchase a new car? Maybe you've gone just to look at cars, right? And you haven't made a decision yet on actually making a purchase. But what happens when you get to the car dealership? Pretty much the moment you walk in, the salespeople have got their eye on you, they're scoping you out and coming right for you. There's a reason why car salesmen have been known to be called sharks. We feel like prey, don't we? When we're walking into a car dealership and we basically get attacked, for lack of a better word, by salespeople. Why? Because they want to close the deal with you. I've had this experience several times when purchasing a car. But I'm the type of person who likes to do all of my research before I'm making such a big purchase. So I've actually gone to a dealership knowing exactly the vehicle I want, what kind of features it's going to have, and how much I'm willing to spend. And I have had car salesmen spend hours trying to convince me otherwise. Why? They want that bigger commission. I've never had a car salesman really truly concerned with my needs, what features I need in a vehicle, how much I can and am willing to spend. Their concern always seemed to be closing the biggest dollar sale that they can. And when that happens, Sure, we may walk away from the sale feeling like we are happy with our actual purchase, but not necessarily happy with the buying experience. And I'm a loyalist. So when it comes to where I'm going to be spending my money, sure, price plays a role in where I'm going to put my dollars. But the buying experience is what's going to close the deal for me. And most consumers feel that way. In fact, most consumers will pay a little bit of a premium price just to get a better shopping experience. And that experience begins with you building that foundation with them, that relationship that starts from the very first message, making them feel like you genuinely care about what they need and what they want. But remember, and I cannot emphasize this enough, it has to be authentic. I can't teach you how to authentically care about someone. That's something you're going to have to figure out for yourself. But if you genuinely don't care about the person that you're talking to and what they need and how you can help them with your business or your product, it's going to come through in your messages. And sure, you might make the sale initially, but eventually that's going to trickle away. Because if that's your approach with every customer that you encounter, your business is not going to be sustainable. And this is something that I'm actually watching unfold right before my very eyes. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are considered very successful in their respective businesses. They've built teams over the years of hundreds, if not thousands of team members. They're earning 6- and 7-figure incomes. They're receiving accolade after accolade. But after several years of growth, they're starting to see their businesses wane. Their monthly income has dropped dramatically, by 50 and 60% in some cases. They've seen large numbers of their team members completely leave their organization. They've seen a drastic drop in repeat customers. And the single greatest common denominator that all of these people have is the failure to build authentic, meaningful relationships first. There's that word again, authentic. I feel like the word authentic is starting to lose its meaning in today's business climate, and maybe even starting to sound a little cliche. But cliches exist for a reason, and not because they're untrue. One thing I do want to say about building authentic relationships is that yes, it will take some time. Sometimes we get so caught up in the here and the now and the instant gratification, we gotta make that sale right now, that we lose sight of the fact that business building is a marathon, not a sprint. And it can be frustrating if you're putting in a lot of effort and you're not really seeing a return on that investment of time right away. But if you're looking to build a long-term sustainable business, you have to be in it for the long haul. That means the idea of instant gratification has to go out the window. You're never going to be able to build a successful business that's going to be around long-term if you're looking at things in the short term. But if your goal is to build a temporary business that's only going to be around for a little while, then sure, go for the sale right off the bat. Just know that you will build a reputation that way. And if you someday change your mind and you decide that you want this business to be around for the long haul, then the decision to be trigger happy with the sales pitch is going to come back and bite you later on. Mistake number 4, not creating a list of goals, big and small. This was one that I still to this day kick myself for not doing when I first got started. I kind of had this abstract idea in my head of what I wanted to accomplish when I first started my business, but I didn't really sit down, think it all out, and write down goals that I wanted to accomplish in certain time frames. I don't know if it was the idea of writing my goals down or putting a date on it, basically giving it a deadline, or maybe it was just me thinking, I know what I want to do, I don't need to write it down. But what I know now that I didn't know then is that if you don't know where you're going to go, you're not going to know how to get there. And you need to get specific about where you want to go. Let's say you decide that you want to make a trip and you want to go to California. If you really want to get there, you're going to have to do a lot more than just think, I want to go to California. California is a big state. So first you have to decide where in California do you want to go. Then you have to decide when you want to go. Do you want to go in the summer? Do you want to go in the winter? Does it matter to you? Then you have to decide how you're going to get there. Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive? Maybe take a bus? Once you're there, where are you going to stay? Are you going to stay at an Airbnb? Are you going to stay in a hotel? Maybe with friends? How are you going to get around while you're there? Rent a car, take an Uber everywhere, maybe have your friends drive you around. What kind of activities do you want to do when you get there? How long do you want to stay for? Who's going to come with you? All these are going to be factors in planning your trip. Then once you've planned it all out, now you have to prepare for it. Book your travel, your lodging, your transportation. Figure out what you're going to need to pack. Get a babysitter or pet sitter if that's applicable to you. Get the time off of work if that's applicable. And all of this is before you've even taken the actual trip. So I want you to think of your business as a trip. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? And you have to write it out. Put it on a calendar. Give yourself a deadline. It's just like our trip to California. If we don't pick a date, how are we ever going to be able to take the steps that we need to take in order to actually get there? You can start with some of the big major goals that you have for your business, or you can start with some of the smaller ones. It's completely up to you. There's really no right or wrong way to write out a list of goals. But once you've written your goals down, now you have to write down some steps that you need to take in order to achieve that goal. Writing out a goal without writing out actionable steps that you need to take does nothing more than take up space on a sheet of paper. So write out the goal, write out your steps, and then take action. The number 5 mistake that new entrepreneurs make is something that I have to confess I'm still kind of guilty of to this day. And that's signing up for online or live trainings, webinars, workshops, courses, what have you. But it's not the signing up part, it's the not doing them or not doing anything with them. I have literally hundreds of unread emails that I keep thinking to myself, I'll get to them someday, and they've been sitting there for a few years. Some of them have links to video webinars. Some of them have PDFs that are part of training courses. There's 1,000,001 things in these emails, and I'll never know what the heck they're going to do for me because I haven't opened them. And then there's the ones that I have opened, and I've gone through all the courses. I did all the video trainings. I attended live events, and then I did nothing with it. Sure, I learned a ton of stuff, but I never implemented anything that I learned. Well, that's not entirely true. There's actually a handful of workshops and training courses and even some live events that I have attended and completed, and then I implemented. And once I actually implemented, that's when I saw a difference in my business. And I'm sure you know how it is. You get super excited about a project or a new business that you're starting, and you want to absorb as much information and content as possible. So you sign up for anything and everything, right? But what good is it if it's just gathering virtual cobwebs in your email box, or if you've done the training and you've done nothing with it? It's a waste of time. Maybe even a waste of money if it's a course that you paid for. Hindsight being 2020, I realize now that what I was doing was kind of a byproduct of FOMO. You've heard of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out? Well, a lot of the stuff that I was signing up for back then were things that my peers were signing up for, and then they were raving about it. So I kind of felt like, okay, I don't want to be out of the loop. I need to sign up for this too. And so-and-so's saying that this course changed her business, so I need to do it too. And that's a slippery slope because inevitably there's always going to be more and more content that will be brought to your attention in one way or another. And if you're not completing the first one, why sign up for the second, third, fourth, and 12th one? You're just going to end up getting overwhelmed with all of the content that's being thrown at you, feeling like there's never going to be enough time to get through it all, and then just becoming discouraged. So my advice to you is start slow. You don't have to sign up for 10 courses at once. Sign up for one. See how that goes. Give yourself a little bit of time every single day to work on the activities in the course to complete it, and then implement the things that you're learning. You've got to give that time too. Like I said before, building your business is a marathon, not a sprint. So you've got to consistently implement what you've learned and give it some time before you determine whether or not it's working for your business and scrap the whole thing. I hope you found this episode helpful, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. Feel free to leave a comment below to tell me what you thought, or you can let me know what kind of topics you'd like to hear on a future episode of the Nansanity Chronicles. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.